Hi everyone, Sarah here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about 5 different ways to finance your university studies in Germany. On this channel, I talk about life in Germany as an American and what it's like to move abroad. And so if that is interesting to you, please subscribe for more and stay tuned. Thanks. So before we get into the video, there's a couple of things that you need to know before you think about financing your studies in Germany. So even though most public universities in Germany have no tuition, you're still gonna have to think about your daily living expenses. And in order to get your visa, you're going to have to prove that you have enough money ahead of time to cover those living expenses for 1 year. Each year, the government sets the minimum amount that you have to have available to you in order to live in Germany. Now in 2020, this number was about 10,200 euros, which equals about 850 euros per month. Now your actual living costs are really going to vary depending on where you choose to study. So obviously the cost of living is totally different in Kassel versus Munich or Berlin. These are all going to have different costs of living. So you should be prepared to cover your living expenses at least to 850 euros per month. And that is at 2020 levels. But as the cost of living increases, so does the minimum amount that you have to have in order to support yourself. It doesn't matter which country you come from. This applies to every non-EU student that's applying to Germany. And I did want to mention that you do not have to have this minimum amount before you apply to universities. You just need it before you can get your student visa. You may have to have your student visa before entering Germany, but this depends on your country. So for Americans, you do not have to show that you have the money in order to come here, to enter the country. You will have to prove your financials in order to get your student visa, which will allow you to stay longer than 90 days. A vast majority of students that come to Germany prove their financials with a blocked account. Using a blocked account is the most surefire method for making sure that you can prove that you have the financials to survive here and get your student visa. So I really recommend doing this method. Although you are not required to do this method, there are different ways that you can prove that you can support yourself. Okay, so now that we've got all that information out of the way, we can finally talk about the topic. So number one is to plan ahead and save. I definitely think this is the easiest route to go, especially if you're going to be self-financing your studies. If you are working before you are coming for your studies, I definitely think that it's worthwhile to look around for some other jobs on top of what you are currently earning so that you're able to save and also get the extra things that you need before you come here. So for me, I actually saved only about 6 months, and I made up the rest by selling my car. But with a little extra saving and planning, this is definitely the simplest way to make sure that you can prove your financials. If you are a better student than me, then number 2 is going to be the best way for you. So number 2 is to apply for scholarships. Now this is going to happen all really fast. Once you've been accepted to your university program, that's when you need to start applying for your scholarships. Now I'm going to include a link down below where you can find some scholarships for Germany, but I'm just going to talk about 1 or 2 to start. The first scholarship I'm going to talk about is the Deutschland Stipendium, but it is essentially the stipend of Deutschland. And it is a scholarship fund for any student. You don't have to be German. You can be an international student and apply for up to 300 euros per month. If you've been accepted to a German university, you should definitely apply for this scholarship. In combination with another scholarship, this can definitely be a method to get you to that minimum amount you have to have for your living expenses every month. And the Deutschlandstipendium is only one of the scholarship options available to international students. In fact, there are scholarships offered not only from the government, but also from private institutions, philanthropic organizations, and even political parties. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard that political parties are supporting scholarships, but it is definitely a way to finance your studies here if you already know you're going to be affiliated with a political party later. There's also many scholarships offered by religious institutions. In addition to the scholarships, there may actually even be room and board options depending on your religious affiliation. If you are Catholic, for instance, and you are coming to Bavaria, there may be options for living in a religious dormitory, which of course come with some caveats, let's say. You can get an extremely cheap room for your studies if you are associated with one of these participating religious institutions. So with that, let's move right on to number 3. And number 3 is definitely not the ideal option for some people, but it may be the way to open the door to studying, and that is with student loans. There may even be special loan programs in your country to finance studies abroad. Loans are definitely going to be a fast and easy option to get that minimum cost of living covered. This is going to be especially important if you come from a country where you have to have your student visa before you enter Germany. This is definitely going to be one of the easiest ways for you, especially if you don't have this money up front. Or putting your living expenses on a credit card like some genius right here. But you're definitely going to want to shop around at different banks in your area and see who has the best options. And you're also going to want to check transfer fees. If you're going to have to do a bank transfer, make sure you know what the fee is ahead of time. And it's entirely up to you if you want to take loans for just the first year or also the second year. Or if you're coming for a bachelor's, maybe you want to do all 4 years. But I definitely don't think that's necessary to do more than 1 year, especially when there are so many student job options when you get here. You can also apply for scholarships after you have started your studies. So if you take a loan out for the first year, you may be able to survive on scholarships and student work in the second year. And that brings us to number 4. And number 4 is student jobs. Now, there are a lot of restrictions that you need to be aware of when you are a working student in Germany. The first is that you are only allowed to work up to 120 days per year at full capacity, or about 20 hours a week throughout your studies. Now, there are some exceptions during the school break when you are allowed to work full-time, but while university is in session, you are only allowed to work half-time. And this is a requirement so that work doesn't completely overtake your studies. However, most student jobs pay the Mindestlohn, which is the minimum amount per month of 450 euros. And this is definitely not going to cover your entire living expenses per month. So you are going to need something else also in addition to a student job. It can really extend your financial runway, especially if you have a loan or scholarships also. To take a student job after you've moved here can really help with your everyday expenses. Now, you can find student jobs with your university, but also with businesses. But I definitely recommend checking out your university first, especially the department that you're going to be studying in, because there's always professors looking for student helpers to help out in the lab or the classroom, and that you may be able to work part-time for them, and that will give you at least this minimum amount of 450 euros a month. When I was studying, I actually worked 2 different student jobs, one after another, and this really helped me, especially in my second year, to cover my next year's expenses. And now we're at number 5. Of course, if you have relatives who are willing to fund your studies, then you pretty much don't have to worry about anything in this video. Your parents' income, if they make enough to support you during your studies, can also suffice to cover this minimum living cost amount. I think your mileage may vary with getting your parents to cover your living expenses, that you can use your parents' pay stubs or bank accounts in order to prove that you have enough to live in Germany. You're gonna wanna check with your local consulate what the rules are for your parents covering your expenses. Again, I'm gonna link down below, at least for the American consulates, where to find your closest consulate so you can make an appointment if you have more questions about getting your parents to support you financially when you are studying abroad. Let me know in the comments if you are planning to come to study in Germany in the next couple years. I'm so curious to hear everybody's different stories and backgrounds before they come here, so let me know in the comments what your plans are. And that's about it for today's video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content. I upload weekly. So I'll see you next time. Bye!
Hey, Panchito. Can you... down? Yes, good boy. Can you roll over? Uh-oh. Pancho, down. Yes, I'll give you a treat for that. Pancho, sit. Yes. Paw. Yes. Other paw. Yes. Good job. You're so smart, baby. Yes, you are.